AiSprouts, and now we're officially recording, where they help entrepreneurs build category-leading ventures. Suman is a Rice alum. He graduated from the electrical engineering department and then went and got his MBA from Harvard Business School. After completing his studies, Suman worked for Pantheon's private equity group in Boston. He started his professional career as an engineer working under the guidance of Adam Scher, who later founded Siri. So I thought that was really cool. Prior to the fund, Suman was a successful Silicon Valley venture-backed operator with 5 back-to-back exits, including Cloudflare's IPO, Anaplan's IPO, Clearwell sell to Sunatic, and he is also an active angel investor and has built a portfolio that includes Ripple, Palantir, and ShareTribe. I'm looking very forward to hearing him speak today. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate being here. Thanks for having me. Great. So let me get started then. Thanks everyone who could join. I noticed that there's 20 or so folks logged in so far. I'm assuming more folks are going to trickle in. So yeah, hi, I'm Suman Talukdar. I'm actually Will Rice, class of 1999. Not to date myself. As Angela mentioned, I've been in Silicon Valley now for about 20 years and super enthusiastic about this program that the Ken Kennedy Institute is having to connect with students, folks at Rice, alumni, in the general Rice community. I think it's a great platform to, get the word out on what all of us are doing. So today, I'm just going to briefly talk about my journey from being an engineer to now being an investor over the last 20 years. I'm calling this talk Finding Your Home Run, in the sense that hopefully it'll give each and every one of you a sense of kind of the things I went through and some learnings that might be helpful as you go through your journeys. As an introduction, I run my own fund and focus on early stage ventures, predominantly those that have a really strong Silicon Valley story. And one of the key things that I look for are, ventures and founders who are looking to hit a home run. And I've always been fascinated by kind of this mindset of really going after something big. And just, wanted to start off by, this quote that I think illustrates a bit of that mindset of, of what people go through. In this case, it was Babe Ruth, who's obviously over 700 home runs in his career, but still, talked about, the thought of striking out and how you shouldn't let kind of that fear get in your way. So, and obviously that perspective of mindset is critical if you want to achieve big things, whoever you are and whatever organization you're in. And when they happen, and as many of us remember, 2003, when Rice won the college World Series, that mindset can lead to amazing results. And so, a bit of kind of what I'm talking about, and hopefully hinting at, is some of the things that I've gone through that have helped me maybe find opportunities to be home runs, and as an investor now, find the folks that I think are focused on achieving such milestones in their career. So in terms of my agenda today, just want to give you a brief introduction of who I am, and then I'll just walk you through. Obviously, a lot of the folks here on the call and on the webinar are Rice alumni, so just give you my personal journey of some of the things I experienced that were super meaningful, and the people that I met. Then I'll explain how that journey led to where I am today in terms of launching and raising capital for my fund, and the trends that I'm focusing on that I think are going to be important. And then I finally wrap up with an overview of kind of the investments I made following these trends, and a bit of how they're doing, and then finish off with just some thoughts on your journey and things I wish somebody had told me as I was, at various phases of my career to date. Hopefully we'll then have some time for Q&A, and we'll take it from there. I'll leave my contact information and would look forward to any of you reaching out to me directly. Always looking to connect with folks in the community. So so AiSprouts, that's my fund. It's a Silicon Valley machine learning fund, and it's a fund that's focused on ventures that I'm saying are pushing humanity forward. I'll get into that in a little bit more detail later. To the fund, I'm bringing a track record of scaling a number of ventures from my professional career, and the fund, launched pre-COVID, has raised capital through COVID, and now is going to be deploying most of it, hopefully, in a post-COVID vaccine world. So, a bit of my journey, just to get into it. So, as I mentioned, I Will Rice grad, and it definitely over the last 20 years, it has not been, would you say, a straight line. It's had a lot of curves, a lot of points of acceleration, times where things have slowed down, but overall it's been a very fun and adventurous story. It started actually, I'll actually put a picture here with my dad on my 20th reunion, but it actually started with my dad because he was a Rice alum as well, PhD. He came to Rice in the late 70s, got a PhD in geology, and we ended up sticking around Houston, and big proponent of me attending Rice. So that was probably the first step in my career, and then I ended up in Rice, and so I have to obviously call out a lot of my Rice friends from back in the days. They're all over the country now. A number of them, followed me to California after I left, graduated the university, and then a number of them went with me to grad school, and then a number of them are now investors in my fund. So, your Rice contacts very much are lifelong relationships, and everyone's doing interesting things. Folks that execs at TI, doctors. So it's an amazing relationship network. So after I finished at Rice, I actually ended up moving to Silicon Valley. This is in the late 90s, peak of the internet bubble. Probably call it the first, real technology wave that hit, in my professional career. And I was fortunate to stumble into a lot of great Rice alum. One of those folks ended up becoming my mentors, friends, and one of them was the gentleman, Burt McMurtry, who obviously you guys know from the buildings on campus. And I actually happened to not know who he was until I, was at an event and recognized his name because, McMurtry Auditorium had just been built at the Rice campus. But anyways, in that context, met a lot of great folks at the time. Post undergrad, I was working as a founder working as engineer for one of who would be a later founder for a company called Siri. So did a bunch of AI stuff early on. Anyways, just to fast forward, decided to go to graduate school when it ended up getting to Harvard. Met a lot of great people there, worked with some great professors, published some papers along the way, got a bit sharper about how to look at technology, how to think about what things would be important. This was around the time when clean tech was really taking off. Ended up, doing some interesting work on the private equity side, and then moved over back to actually Silicon Valley, and stumbled into this company called Clearwell Systems. So, at the end of kind of all of these, back to back experiences working with these great people, came to the conclusion that I sort of had an understanding of some of kind of the important traits that made these companies successful. And just like a lot of other, great or promising things that happen out of Silicon Valley, got together with some folks from Rice that actually known for a long time at a cafe here in Silicon Valley, and decided that what I wanted to do next was to start this fund. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that you go through in your career, a lot of people you meet, a lot of experiences that can help you learn, that sometimes add up to kind of an unpredictable outcome that's very promising. So just to move forward, there's no questions yet. Wanted to briefly talk a little bit about what are the trends that I'm focusing on out of my fund. And I think these are going to be sort of some of the things that you're going to be seeing wherever you are and whatever stage in your career you're at, or whatever industry position you're in. So the first one is what I'm calling the unstoppable cloud. This is basically a picture of the performance of some of the major cloud companies starting in 2013. And you can see that, I mean, it's been clear domination and outperforming other categories. And one trend that is going to continue is this. I mean, in the US, about 90%, 89, 90, more than 90% of companies are already using the cloud, are already using SaaS. And that type of domination is going to continue to extend across new categories. So that's definitely number one trend that I'm focused looking at. Number two is automation everywhere. This is the stock chart of company everyone knows, Tesla. And one of the facts that I think it's people think about, okay, was a car company, is it it's also an AI company. But if you look at their self-driving capability, they actually have they use 30 billion data points, miles of data to train their system, and the closest competitor is Google with 30 million. So this type of automation that's starting to pop up is going to leads to dominance, and that's kind of that's another characteristic or trait that I look for. And the third is machine learning is basically the new Moore's law. So probably until 5 years ago, definitely between when I graduated college and post business school, Moore's law, a lot of decks you would come in, it would start with Moore's law, and it's propelling the wave of compute. And then people start to realize that was kind of dissipating in some capacity. And now machine learning is creating this type of massive shift. You see that there's a big inflection that happens around the 2014-15 time period, where computational power has basically gone up 30,000 times in 5 years. And this is a massive trend that's impacting every aspect of technology. So putting it all together, what I'm focusing on with my fund is what I'm calling practical AI. So it's a combination of algorithms that have been around for a long time, are now available on the cloud. They're available open source. Data, which obviously is growing every day exponentially, is more available, can be manipulated easily. And then compute, which, as I discussed, GPU stack has gone up, 30,000 times in 5 years. So this has created this convergence of really savvy founders, entrepreneurs, being able to get together and build products that are effectively AI products, machine learning systems with very little capital that have traction early on. And that's very much the focus of the fund. So I'll stop a bit. I see we have maybe a question that I can address. Perfect. So yeah, somebody asked, what ML applications do you find most promising? Very well-timed question. So that's exactly what I'm going to talk about next. So the investments in my fund are very much focused on traction, and then I stay away from things that are still yet to be validated by some sort of commercial interest, whether it's a customer revenue or pilot. And so the traits that I look for are, one, obviously founders that are resilient, that have experienced ups and downs in the business and are going after some large, very ambitious mission, and a big vision for where they can go. Second is products with demonstrated traction. So that, as I mentioned, this can be early pilots, revenues. And then third is a clear understanding of how they will win the market. And so taking these three principles and traits in mind, I just wanted to walk through some of the companies that I've invested in and the applications. So finally, I'd like to wrap up with some comments on kind of your journey. As I talked to you, I talked about kind of this home run mindset, sort of the experiences that I've witnessed in my career that were home runs, and how that has tied to kind of the fund and what I'm looking to do with the fund and the trends that I'm looking to capitalize on and the investments that I made. So I had some kind of general principles on, things that I wish somebody had told me around kind of finding really promising ventures. So number one's very big, simple. It's, paying attention to what is happening around you. Sometimes we get very laser focused in terms of exactly what we're working on. And we tend to lose sight of the information that's clearly and readily available from what's happening around us, what our colleagues are doing, what people we know are working on, the information we're hearing. Second, kind of specific to Rice, I think the Rice network is tremendous. I think it's very supportive. It's a lifelong network. So I definitely would interact with people from that perspective. Second, or third, I think it's, never underestimate. I think we talk about technology and trends, but at the end of the day, it's about people. It's about who you know. And I think we're moving to a world where, relationships are important, but they're not the only drivers. But your understanding of people and having ties to them will help you in whatever you do. So that's definitely a third guiding sort of principle. Fourth, what I've seen is, good ideas, sort of different versions of the same ideas tend to pop up. You can have a bunch of them be generally successful. You can have one of them do really well, a bunch of them fail. It's a bit of hard to predict, but they sort of happen around the same times. And that's something definitely that is important to look out for. As we enter more and more into this era of like easy things being automated first, I think it's going to be critical for all of us to be continuous and lifelong learners. And the way to really capitalize on that and take advantage of the time we have is to embrace long-term thinking in whatever we do. So whatever project you take on, whatever task you do, like really think of it as, is this something you're going to do long-term? And then finally, I'm kind of came up with this, but scratch an itch and seize opportunities. Once in a while, there's things that you should do because they're interesting. And then there are other sort of projects, opportunities that can be sort of game changing for your career. And when those types of situations pop up, you definitely want to seize them and pursue them, with all your might. And it's not going to be a straight line, right? So as you go through this, it's critical to persist. And to wrap up, sports is an arena where mindset always comes to be, and you hear about great athletes. I'll wrap up. I always loved this quote. Actually used a picture of Michael Jordan on my little box set Rice application 20 years ago. But even, the people who do amazingly well, they talk about how, they missed 9,000 shots, 300 games they lost, 26 times they've been trusted to win and they've lost. And they still, but because they've gone through those experiences, they ended up succeeding. So that's a wrap up of kind of my prepared talk, a bit of kind of the mindset I look for in the companies that I invest in. Feel free to contact me, reach out to me anytime. Would love to meet all of you or be in touch. I'm obviously in a massive networking mode. The goal is to invest in, call it $20 to $40 million of capital in automation over the next 10 years. So there's lots of great ideas and people to meet in this process.